When a farmer finds black eggs on his property, he begins to wonder what kind of animal could have laid them. He chooses to watch them carefully, and when they eventually hatch, he's so overwhelmed that he breaks down in tears. Farmer Caleb had always dreamed of running a successful egg business. His farm, nestled in a picturesque valley in Georgia, had been in his family for many generations. Sadly, the last few years had been tough for him. What was once a thriving farm was now struggling to survive. The increasing cost of feed, rising competition, and decreasing demand for his usual brown and white eggs had taken a heavy toll on his income. So, when he suddenly discovered a dozen black eggs scattered around his land, he was so stunned that he stood still for almost 10 minutes. He had never seen or even heard of eggs like these before. None of his hens had ever laid anything close to them. For a brief moment, he thought they might be snake eggs, and carefully looked around, checking the tall grass for any signs of movement. But it seemed that whatever had left the eggs had already gone and left them behind. Farmer Caleb didn't know what to think. On the one hand, those odd eggs might reveal scary creatures he would later have to fight to get out of his house, but on the other hand, they could be exactly what his farm needed to prosper again. People might be willing to pay more for those eggs if it meant giving a fun twist to their omelets, and perhaps they might pay more for the chicken meat as well, especially around holidays such as Halloween. He could become rich if those eggs hatched more black chicks, that is, unless someone else came to claim them before he did. Caleb was not a thief, but those eggs were legally on his property, and he was simply too curious to leave them out in the open for everyone else to see. So, he muttered a quick, "Sorry," to whatever creature had laid them, and started loading them onto his truck. He would put them in an incubator he kept at the farm and wait for them to hatch and reveal the surprise inside. In the following days, Caleb monitored the eggs closely and adjusted the temperature and humidity levels with precision, so they mirrored the warmth the eggs could get from a mother hen. Every morning he would check on them, and his heart lifted at the sight of the smooth black shells still intact. He dared to dream about the strange creatures that would soon emerge from them. Would they be completely black as well? In his quiet moments, Caleb imagined the flurry of interest these rare eggs could generate. He envisioned buyers flocking to his farm, each eager to pay top dollar to see completely black chickens. But despite his excitement, Caleb remained cautious. He knew there was still a long way to go before the eggs hatched. The days turned into weeks as Caleb anxiously awaited the hatching of the black eggs. The expected hatching date came and went without any signs of life. Each day, Caleb checked the incubator, desperately hoping to see cracks in the shells or hear the faint peeping of chicks. But the eggs remained still and silent. It was as if their black shells mocked his hopes. Tension built within Caleb as the days continued to pass without any change. The longer he waited, the more his doubts began to grow. Had he been wrong to bring those eggs into his home? What if they didn't belong to chickens at all? Could he have unknowingly endangered the entire farm? Uncertainty took hold of him, slowly eroding his confidence. Caleb's daily life had become a constant cycle of hard work and worry. He got up before dawn, starting every morning by checking the temperature and humidity inside the incubator. Even though his anxiety was growing, he tried to stay optimistic. He kept telling himself that the strange eggs were a gift from destiny, not a bad omen. Once he finished caring for the eggs, Caleb continued with his usual chores. He fed and gave water to his chickens, cleaned out the coops, and gathered the standard brown and white eggs. The farm was still in a tough spot, and the responsibility of keeping it going felt like a heavy burden. Every job felt harder than before, and the mystery of the black eggs loomed over everything he did. One chilly morning, Caleb woke up feeling unusually weak. His head throbbed, and his body ached with fever. He tried to push through the discomfort, but it quickly became clear that he was too ill to carry out his daily tasks. The relentless worry and sleepless nights had taken their toll, leaving him bedridden and unable to care for the farm. Days turned into a blur as Caleb lay in bed, his mind foggy with fever. The farm, once bustling with activity, began to show signs of neglect. Weeds grew unchecked, the chicken coops became dirty, and the feed bins started to run low. The regular egg production dwindled as Caleb's absence took its toll on the animals. The tight-knit community around Caleb's farm began to notice the changes. Neighbors whispered among themselves, concerned about the once thriving farm now falling into disrepair. Luke, Caleb's longtime friend and neighbor, was the first to take action. He decided to check on the farm and see if Caleb needed any help. As he approached the farmhouse, he saw the signs of neglect and knew something was seriously wrong. Luke knocked on the door and found Caleb in a weak state, barely able to get out of bed. Realizing the severity of the situation, Luke quickly took charge. He assured Caleb that he would take care of the farm while he recovered and urged him to rest and regain his strength. Luke threw himself into the work. He tended to the chickens, cleaned the coops, and made sure the animals were fed. He even reached out to other neighbors and asked for their help to keep the farm running. However, in his weakened state, Caleb forgot to tell his friends about the mysterious eggs in the incubator, and soon enough, Luke and the other neighbors would get the surprise of their lives. One evening, as Luke was finishing up the day's chores, he heard a faint peeping sound coming from the chicken coop. His heart skipped a beat as he hurried inside with a flashlight in hand. He scanned the rows of nests. The sound grew louder. Finally, he reached the incubator and saw movement inside one of the black eggs. He was shocked at the sight and wondered where on earth Caleb had found such strange eggs. Luke rushed back to the farmhouse to tell his friend that the mysterious eggs in his incubator were hatching. What could possibly be inside them? Luke asked aloud, puzzled. Caleb simply shook his head, admitting he still didn't have an answer. But even in his weakened condition, there was a spark of hope in his eyes. Maybe this was the breakthrough he had been waiting for. As he continued to recover, Caleb told Luke the whole story about the unusual black eggs, from the day he found them to the countless sleepless nights spent worrying they might bring harm to the farm. He felt grateful to have his friends close now that the eggs were finally starting to crack open. If something dangerous came out, they would face it together, but if something miraculous hatched, they would share in the joy. 2 days later, Caleb was strong enough to get out of bed. He and Luke crouched near the incubator, their faces just inches from the eggs as they began to hatch. And then, the first chick broke through. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. Both men let out a sigh of relief when they realized that the animals inside the eggs were indeed birds. But the sigh turned into an excited gasp when they took in the chick's features. Its feathers were a glossy black that shimmered in the dim light. The chick's eyes blinked open, and it let out a small, triumphant chirp. One by one, the other eggs began to hatch. Each chick was a marvel with sleek black feathers and bright, curious eyes. The hatching process was mesmerizing. The chicks struggled and fought their way out of the shells, displaying a resilience that reflected Caleb's own journey. He watched, transfixed, as the last chick finally broke free. Luke quickly whipped out his phone and started searching for answers on the internet. These might be Ayam Cemani chicks, he said eventually, his voice broken with emotion. Caleb turned toward him with a frown. He had no idea what Ayam Cemani chicks were. Chuckling, Luke explained that these Indonesian chickens are extremely rare and sought after because of their jet-black features, including eyes, beak, and feathers, down to their very bones. Their eggs could be sold at an astonishing price. He was also sure that people would pay just to take a look at the chickens. He couldn't understand how those eggs ended up on Caleb's farm, but he was pretty confident they would take all his financial problems away. At that moment, Caleb's emotions overwhelmed him. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he didn't try to stop them. He had fought so hard and sacrificed so much, and now, at last, he held the promise of a brighter future in his hands. The sight of the ayam cemani chicks, so rare and so beautiful, brought a profound sense of relief and joy. He wept openly, his tears falling onto the straw-covered floor. The reality of the moment was sinking in. His farm had been on the brink of failure, but fate had bestowed upon it a chance to thrive. The black eggs had finally hatched, marking the beginning of a new chapter for Caleb's farm. The news of the hatching spread quickly through the community. Neighbors who had supported Caleb during his illness flocked to the farm to witness the extraordinary chicks. They were in awe of the ayam cemani. Their jet-black plumage and stunning appearance left everyone gasping in admiration. Caleb's renewed sense of hope wasn't just about financial recovery. It was about reclaiming the dream he had nearly let go and the dedication he had poured into his work. The ayam cemani chicks represented a new beginning, an opportunity to rebuild and move forward. As he watched them wander through their surroundings and peck at the straw, Caleb felt a deep fulfillment he hadn't experienced in years. In the days that came next, he devoted himself to caring for the chicks. Giving them the best possible start was his top priority. He built a custom enclosure just for them, with heat lamps and clean, soft bedding. He kept detailed records of their progress, noting changes in their behavior and growth. Their shiny black feathers shimmered in the light, and their playful, inquisitive spirit brought fresh life to the farm. But it wasn't long before Caleb began to notice something extraordinary about these chicks. Their unique characteristics went beyond their stunning appearance. The chicks were incredibly hardy. They thrived in conditions that would challenge other breeds. They grew faster and stronger than Caleb had anticipated, and displayed a robustness that set them apart. Their feathers were not only black, but had an iridescent sheen. When the light was just right, they shimmered with hints of green and purple. It was as if they carried a touch of magic in their plumage. Caleb meticulously documented these observations. He realized that his ayam cemani brood was exceptional. Even within their rare breed, their quality and rarity made them a potential gold mine. Word of the remarkable chicks spread quickly and drew attention from beyond the local community. One afternoon, Caleb received a visit from a man who introduced himself as Mr. Whitmore. He was a wealthy investor with a keen interest in rare and exotic breeds. Mr. Whitmore had heard about Caleb's ayam cemani chicks and was eager to see them for himself. Mr. Whitmore was immediately captivated by the sight of the ayam cemani. He admired their unique beauty and noted their impressive health and vigor. He turned to Caleb, his eyes gleaming with interest. "These chicks are extraordinary. I've never seen anything quite like them." Caleb felt a surge of pride. He agreed that they were special and explained that he'd put everything into raising them. Mr. Whitmore nodded thoughtfully. "I can see that," he said. "I believe these birds hold tremendous potential, not just for breeding but also for appealing to niche markets that value their rarity and beauty enough to pay a premium. I'd like to propose an offer to you." Caleb's heart raced as Mr. Whitmore outlined his proposal. He was willing to invest in Caleb's farm, providing the financial support needed to expand and improve operations. In return, Mr. Whitmore wanted a share of the future profits from the I.M. Semani sales and breeding programs. The offer was generous and would secure Caleb's financial future. Above all, it would ensure the farm's stability and growth. Caleb listened carefully and weighed the offer. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. It was a chance to not only save his farm, but to see it thrive beyond his wildest dreams. With a firm handshake, Caleb accepted the proposal. A weight lifted off his shoulders. The partnership with Mr. Whitmore meant that his I.M. Semani chicks would bring prosperity and recognition to his farm. But it still wasn't over. One sunny afternoon, as Caleb was tending to the flock, he noticed something peculiar about one of the chicks. It was slightly larger than the others, and its feathers had an even more pronounced iridescent sheen. Intrigued, Caleb decided to take a closer look. He carefully examined the chick. Its eyes were a striking shade of blue, unlike the dark eyes of the other I.M. Semani. Caleb's heart skipped a beat as he realized he might have stumbled upon something extraordinary. He promptly reached out to a poultry geneticist to examine the chick. The expert arrived and performed a series of analyses. The findings were nothing short of incredible. The chick carried a rare genetic mutation that amplified its already striking traits. This mutation not only made the bird even more visually impressive, but also gave it greater resilience and accelerated growth. It was, essentially, a flawless example of the I.M. Semani breed. Its features were unmatched. Word of the remarkable chick spread rapidly. Breeders, collectors, and enthusiasts all rushed to see it and hoped to acquire it. Demand soared. Offers began flooding in, each one more generous than the last. The discovery of the unique mutation guaranteed Caleb's farm a leading position in the rare poultry industry for years ahead. Now that the value and demand for his I.M. Semani chicks were firmly established, Caleb's future and the farm's longevity were secured. Every day he stood in the coop, watching the elegant birds forage, feeling an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. Against all odds, he had not only saved his farm, but turned it into a symbol of hope and achievement. Did you enjoy this story? Have you ever faced a tough period like Caleb's? What words of encouragement would you share with someone going through something similar? Tell us in the comments below. If you liked this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Sometimes it's in our darkest moments that the most unexpected miracles take place. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next video. Wishing you a wonderful day.